What's so funny? Lessons from Canada's Leacock Medal for Humour Writing. Lesson number 30. Political satire and the real Newfoundland jokes. Hi, I'm Dick Bourgeois Doyle, and this is a review of the 1977 Leacock Medal winner, That Far Greater Bay by Ray Guy. The tail end of a hurricane blew open the door of my motel room. My rental car broke down on a remote country road, and mud and slime ran over my hands every day of the week. It was late August 2010, one of the best weeks of my life. I spent it with my daughter Becky. At that time, she was a Memorial University grad student, studying slime-covered clams at the Bombay Marine Station in Grossmoor National Park. This was her last summer as a single woman and resident Newfoundlander, and thus a last opportunity to spend Prospero and Miranda time together on the rocky island. It was great, but it could have been better. I could have read Ray Guy's book, That Far Greater Bay, beforehand. The 1977 Leacock Medal winner makes you smile when you think of Newfoundland and helps you value places like Grossmoor even more. It also helps you appreciate Newfoundland humor, the power of satire, and the forms it can take. Guy, who died at the age of 74, just as I was reading his book in 2013, was best known as a political commentator and a sometimes solitary voice criticizing Premier Joey Smallwood. But by the time Guy and his editors were assembling That Far Greater Bay, many of his old political pieces had become dated and would have required too much humor-crushing preambling. Guy said he wanted his book to amuse. For this reason, the book features flights of fancy and what he calls vicious humor and writing that has laughter as its exclusive goal. Guy devotes one chapter, for example, to the subject of smells and smelling, saying, "When you think you smell nothing here, what you are smelling is the salt water. It's in all the air, so much that it goes unnoticed." Another column describes a failed attempt to fire a gun and smack a tree with a stick. Those are the gestures needed to ring in the new year in Newfoundland. Another column laments the evolution of picnics into backyard barbecues, and another celebrates the art of doing nothing. In everything, the humor flows from unique to Newfoundland images and word combinations. Guy recalls the childhood thrill of catching tiny fish with string and worm, saying that for thrills, nothing but an 800-pound tuna could take its place. One as big as a church, with 2 heads and 2 tails, and King Neptune sitting on his back. All done out with lumps of gold as big as hen's eggs and eyes as big as bowls of lime jelly, playing patience with a large deck of marked cards. Unlike the pejorative Newfie jokes, real Newfoundland humor, as in this book, bursts with pride. Pride in the face of put-downs, pride in the harrowing history, and pride in the hardiness of the people. I learned this at Pittman's Garage in Rocky Harbor, watching my flat tire being repaired and listening to the guys tell stories. The Newfoundlander was always the hero, the toughest guy in town, the one who outsmarts the banker or the boss, and the one who takes the wind and the cold when others run for cover. In this book, Ray Guy points out that if the Vikings were really all that tough, they would have stuck it out in Newfoundland, and there would be Newfoundland Viking youngsters playing in the yard today. Newfoundland is said to be a have-not province, he says, but there is one field in which we lead the Western world, and that is in the field of coarse language. He proclaimed that after Pierre Trudeau's Fuddle-Duddle episode, and said, "The facts back it up. We have the best coarse language in North America, perhaps the world." Though seemingly silly, and officially just for laughs, Guy could never really escape his political opinions. They lurk below the surface of every piece. His smelling, doing nothing, cursing, and stick-and-worm fishing stories are really about the despised resettling from the remote outports on far greater bays into consolidated communities, and about anxiety over Newfoundland's natural environment and way of life. Not surprisingly, Guy was a major force in the fight to preserve what is now Grossmoor National Park. He would have been a powerful voice in this if his comments on this issue were anything like the pointed parts of That Far Greater Bay. In slamming the 1970 War Measures Act, for example, he puts together words that would be helpful in the post-9/11 world. ridiculing the notion that we should trust our leaders in the mode of an absolute monarchy. And he warns against the absurdity that desperate times call for desperate measures. He says, "The stamp on the back of the mind says beware, when the shouts from all throats sound as one, and when a leader is set up as something larger than life." When it comes to larger-than-life leaders, Smallwood always gets special attention. And despite the decision to avoid columns on dated issues and events, Guy can't resist including some of his general efforts to humble the Premier in this book. In one story, two women, card-carrying liberals with heavy accents, are upset that anyone would dare to challenge the revered Smallwood for the party leadership. She says, "It makes me sick, some people. It makes me bile, that's the truth. Ignorant, nothing but ignorant." She's talking of convention delegates who don't recognize how great Joey is. Yes, he's done a lot of good for Newfoundland. The parody would not be well received if written by an outsider, but Guy's speaking as a Newfoundlander with an Outport background. By putting exaltation of Smallwood in backward mouths, of course, he's encouraging readers to distance themselves from those thoughts in a satire worthy of study. The book closes with a column of optimism, though. He says, "The sun will shine and it will be fresh and warm and clear, and we will have our soul back." This is 1971, and the column marked Joey Smallwood's election defeat. Guy had an opinion and an ability to mock, and he affected the flow of events in Newfoundland. But his greatest impact may have come from just being an embodiment of something worth preserving, that Newfoundland pride and ability to keep up the fight with a sense of humor. Now here's a writing exercise inspired by that far greater bay. Write an exchange between two people using misstatements and prejudice to defend a point of view that you do not share, but then do it with the point of view that you support.